and its representatives. All comments should be addressed to the members of the town board, zoning, I'm going to say ZBA, the Appeals Planning Board, and not to the other persons of the audience. There will be no debate or answering of questions raised by the speakers as part of this hearing. Please do not interrupt speakers or engage in personal attacks, booing, or catcalling. Discourteous behavior will not be tolerated and could result in expulsion from the hearing. Please avoid repetition. If a previous speaker has already offered the same comment as you have, when your turn is called, you can tell the town board, ZBA, and the planning board members that you agree with the comments of the previous speaker without repeating the comment in full detail. This will keep the hearing moving so that all speakers will be able to give their comments before the evening grows late. If you have any written comments of your spoken remarks or other documents that you want the town board, ZBA, or planning board to make part of its records, please be sure to submit those documents to the town board, ZBA, or planning board, either at the meeting or via email, supervisor@townofhurley.org, zoning@townofhurley.org, or planning@townofhurley.org. Thank you for your cooperation.
There are sign-in sheets on the back table. Anyone wishing to speak on any of the 4 public hearings can sign up there. The first public hearing will be on the corner lots. Is there anyone here to speak about the corner lots? I'd like a motion first to open the public hearing for the corner lots law. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. So carried. Okay.
Actually, I was going to ask.
Can you step to the microphone, please?
Peter McKnight, 91 Pleasant Ridge Drive, Hurley. I was asking, is there going to be?
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's not on, all right. Peter McKnight, Pleasant Ridge Drive, Hurley. I was going to ask, is there going to be a general public comment period tonight?
After the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing no comments, motion to adjourn the public hearing, to reschedule for May. Is that May 23rd? May 16th at 7:05 p.m. here at the town hall. Okay. Okay, is there a second to adjourn?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay. Next public hearing is continuation of the alternates law. A motion to open the public hearing on the alternates law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay. Is there anyone here to speak on the alternates law? This is a law that would permit alternates on the planning board. Okay, hearing no comments, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing on the alternates law for continuation May 16th at 7:10 p.m. Okay, is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay, is there a sign-in sheet at the back with names of folks interested in speaking on the moratorium? Someone pass that to the front. Thank you. Is there a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed moratorium in the A2.5 and A4 zones?
Motion to open the public hearing, etc.
Second? Mike?
Second.
Mike Bonds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Before we get started, I'd like to read a description of the moratorium so that there's no confusion. It is no secret that the Hudson Valley has been discovered and is now attracting widespread interest from near and far. In many ways, this is a good thing. However, it also creates some challenges that most communities are now facing. The zones identified in the moratorium, A4 and A2.5, are the most vulnerable in the town. The town board wants to ensure that the growth happens thoughtfully and supports the goals of the residents and developers who wish to bring projects to the town. The town of Hurley implemented zoning in 1969. Since then, there have been updates to the code as the need has arisen, but to my knowledge, there has never been a comprehensive zoning revision. This has resulted in a code that is inconsistent, disjointed, awkward, and often confusing. The confusion and inconsistencies are costly to residents, but also to those seeking to bring any kind of business to our communities. The goal of a town's code is to logically support the town's comprehensive plan. It is the meat and potatoes of the comprehensive plan. When looked at as a whole, it should support the growth of the town, propose sensible, logical development on lands that support it, and comply with all state and local regulations. More than 2 years ago, the town of Hurley began the process of updating its comprehensive plan and is now ready to release a draft to the public for review and consideration. That will happen tomorrow. The comprehensive plan that is ultimately adopted will be shaped significantly by public input, as has already taken place in the workshops that were held this past fall, as well as in additional workshops to be scheduled once the draft is released. Comprehensive plans articulate the vision of the residents and other key stakeholders have of their community. In reality, it is a thoughtful response to the question, who and what do we want our community to become as we grow? The proposed moratorium is designed to provide the community with the time it needs to digest the comprehensive plan and to develop revisions to the town code that will support what residents want. Without a moratorium, we are forced to work with an antiquated town code that is inconsistent, confusing, and may or may not be in alignment with the wishes of town residents. In my slightly more than 1 year as supervisor, the town board has passed approximately 5 local laws that were actually necessary to fix errors in the code that were problematic for the building department, etc. Fixing laws piecemeal that way is costly. It leaves a disjointed town and makes supporting development illogical, difficult for developers and the town, and most importantly, doesn't articulate the vision of the residents who live here, who want to see it grow and change. With that, I will take the first remark from Dean Osterhout.
Is it okay, folks, if I sit down? My wheels are sore.
Sure.
I'm going to make this as quick as I can. I'm a slow speaker, so bear with me. Good evening. My name is Dean Osterhout. I was born and raised in West Hurley. I'm the owner of Osterhout Masonry Incorporated, established in 1996. Some of my projects directly involve lot preparation, foundations, and stonework. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to address this board. First, reasons for the moratorium, as stated in the proposal, include, quote, to advance public health as well as residents' quality of life, end quote. Yet, beyond this shallow language, the document describes no specific threats to public health or quality of life that would, require overriding property rights. In Hurley, it's already a very long process to develop and sell a parcel of land. Why now forbid it for 9 months? Second, the proposal states that the current zoning laws, quote, permit intense development in areas that are not well suited for such development, end quote. It also states that the moratorium serves the public interest and that our, quote, well-being and quality of life may be prejudiced by large development should they be allowed to proceed at this time, end quote. The terms intense development and large development are not defined in this law. These terms are subject and abroad. These terms are subjective and broad, excuse me. Is a retired person trying to supplement income by selling 5 acres of their land considered intense or large development? How about the parents who want to subdivide their land to provide a parcel for their children? These are the people you are hurting with this law. The common folks just trying to get by. You're not hurting the big developers. They will adapt and build anyway. The town should not halt development without clearly indicating that it has specific direct negative impact on the town. This proposal fails to do that. This law will slow down construction projects in the area. Assuming the moratorium ends after 9 months, then the application process resumes. It will still be at least an additional 9 to 18 months before projects are resumed, especially since the law prohibits doing any prep work in the meantime. Your law effectively shuts down people like me in Hurley for up to 2 years. And it's not just me. With lot preparation, foundation, stone work not being done, follow-up work can't be done either, including framers, plumbers, electricians, landscapers, so forth. Your law effectively declares war on small business contractors. This proposal states the town is currently working to, quote, update its comprehensive plan, which was last updated approximately 15 years ago, and which process may result in amended subdivision zoning regulations. Okay. In the meantime, why can't you continue to do the job we elected you to do under the existing laws that have worked just fine? I respectfully submit that the town can work on its comprehensive plan and not punish its landowners in the meantime. Please vote down this moratorium. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Next person is Mr. Charles Gottlieb.
Good evening. I have a submission that I emailed earlier. I brought hard copies. How many copies would you like?
Copies for the board. The board did receive digital copies.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gottlieb. I'm a land use and environmental attorney at Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna, located in Albany, New York. Here this evening on behalf of Southern Realty and Development Corporation, who has control over property at Route 28 and 375, which was going to be a Dunkin' Donuts restaurant, which is currently in litigation after being denied by this town's planning board. I just handed over a submission dated today that details our strong opposition to the moratorium for several reasons. Very briefly, this moratorium as it stands violates New York law because it is not supported by evidence that the town is facing, I quote, a dire necessity or an emergency condition. The moratorium as it's drafted has nothing but conclusory statements of increased development pressure. There are no documents in the record that indicate what development pressure that is, what is the emergency that this town is facing, that they need to take such a strong action in striping away property rights. Further, the moratorium is not calculated to address the dire necessity or the emergency condition. It is simply a blanket prohibition on development that is not targeted towards addressing those alleged concerns. And then lastly, the town has not taken any steps to alleviate this alleged crisis. The moratorium is purely conclusory statements to further a political agenda and could be based on generalized community concerns. Our submission also details that this moratorium has arrived out of thin air. My office has routinely foiled the town of Hurley related to records, correspondences, and emails related to any change to the comprehensive plan. We have never seen a response that indicates such a crisis or emergency in the town that warrants a moratorium. In fact, through the records we were able to obtain, we have never even seen the word moratorium in any of the emails or any discussions about the comprehensive plan. We recently submitted a FOIL request on January 25th of this year. It was not until April 7th that we received an acknowledgement of that FOIL request. The FOIL law requires an acknowledgement within 5 days of receipt of the request. We received an acknowledgement 3 months after our request, and it took my office to submit a FOIL appeal to your board to get that acknowledgement. We do expect a response on April 27th. We would like this public hearing adjourned until we get those responsive documents. If we do not get those responsive documents by April 27th, now that we're faced with a moratorium, additional litigation can be expected. Shockingly, tonight, I hear that there is a draft of the comprehensive plan that is going to be released tomorrow. Yet, from FOILs starting back from September 2022, we have not seen any emails, any letters, any memorandums, any drafts. So not only is this moratorium appearing out of thin air, so is this draft comprehensive plan. We also understand that the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee has been disbanded. There's no information on the website. You can't find any agendas. You can't find any meeting minutes. You can find absolutely no information. The last correspondence we have that indicate a CRC was functioning was December 8th, 2021. And those correspondences are at Exhibit A to our submission. If there is such an emergency in this town that it warrants a moratorium, why is the CRC disbanded? Who is going to review the comprehensive plan? Who has been drafting this comprehensive plan? We can't tell. And if I can't tell, as a land use attorney who's been reviewing FOIL documents for the past year, how are members of the general public supposed to stay informed? Lastly, from a legal perspective, the moratorium violates New York law because it has no rational basis. There's no documented evidence of any development pressure. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there certainly is none in this record. We recently defeated a moratorium in the town of New Windsor in Orange County, and that's the opinion is Exhibit C to our submission. And that court said that where there is no emergency, there can be no moratorium. And for example, in that specific case, it talked about infrastructure. One of the alleged impacts of this moratorium is to alleviate pressure on infrastructure. However, if a lot of these parcels are not connected to public sewer and public water and are going to have private wells and private septic systems, there is no impact to public infrastructure. So we're trying to understand what is the basis of this moratorium.
Time.
I didn't realize there was a time limit set.
It's 2 minutes, but we'll grant you.
Thank you. My last point is the moratorium is not narrowly tailored to address the alleged impact. While we don't really know what the alleged impact is, we can assume it's environmental impacts. So why aren't projects that have received a SECRA negative declaration or that are type 2 under SECRA, which is a determination that there are no environmental impacts, why aren't they exempt? Further, the moratorium prohibits the code enforcement officer and the ZBA from issuing interpretations. Interpretations do not result in development. Interpretations are a type 2 action under SECRA. And also, I can't understand how the town thinks they can preempt New York state law that grants the CEO and the ZBA with the sole jurisdiction to interpret the zoning code. These are all things that need to be addressed. It appears as though the moratorium was haphazard, and we request that it be revoked or at least the public hearing adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just would like to let the town board know that this moratorium, as we stated, applies only to the A2.5 and A4 zones. And the project in question is not in either one of those zones and would not be impacted by this. Next speaker is Mitchell Cohen.
Yeah, so, good evening, everybody. I'm Mitchell Cohen. I live on 28A in West Hurley. And, you know, you have your oil and you have your vinegar, and I'm here to be the vinegar. I served a little over 2 years as the chairman of the planning board here in this town. And I personally felt the repercussion of a moratorium in place when I took the position of chairman. And the purpose of the moratorium, a moratorium, is so that codes can be modified and rewritten so that the development of the land can be conducted in the correct manner that is not going to be destroyed or incomplete. So, you know, the planning board and zoning board, the purpose is not to deny building permits and building. The purpose is actually the other way. It's to actually grant for development. But you have to have a better identification of what needs to be done. The volunteers that are on the planning board and on the zoning board are not heavily trained to do the work like the planners are trained. And they come in and they sit down and they go over what the applicant wants, and hopefully the building inspector, code enforcement officer, and the zoning board has done all their requirements before it gets to the planning board. If it's not complete, then the planning board has to suffer. And the planning board members are volunteers that really don't do the, you know, planning for a living, bottom line. It's, so the moratorium, in my opinion, is just to be out there to provide additional time to modify, update codes that haven't been updated in over 30 years. I just, you know, the only thing that I would say, in addition to the moratorium on the A4 and A2.5, is I'm not sure, but I think there might be areas that have escarpments in them that should be added in that moratorium so that people aren't building houses and cutting down woods. So everybody that drives on 87 is going, wow, look at this place. They've got people living on cliffs. So I'm not sure what other areas there are, but I'm sure the code enforcement and the building inspector can identify such areas. And this is just to prevent things from happening, like, you know, hammer drilling on an escarpment and an escarpment cracking and falling down onto a road and causing severe damage or even death. We don't want that in Hurley. So I just wanted to say, you know, I'm supportive of the moratorium for the interim to get the codes modified and updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Matt Jared.
Good evening. My name is Matt Jared, and I am a proud and very grateful resident of Hurley. I would like to begin by thanking all of you for your service to our community during these difficult times, and for everyone here who came out to make your voice heard. I live with my family on Bluestone Ridge, a private dirt road off of Crier Lane. My property, as well as several of my neighbors' properties, are adjacent to the 600-acre combined parcel for sale on Dug Hill Road. I know this issue is multifaceted, and there are aspects of which I am unaware, so I will offer a personal example which I believe illustrates the larger need for pause and for clarification. The description of the parcel on Dug Hill Road currently lists 4 points of egress, including our private road Bluestone Ridge, which would then require the use of a portion of my personal driveway to enter the larger property for, quote, many future possibilities. The property listing concludes that there are no easements, but I have a written and filed easement for my driveway, which passes directly through 100-acre parcel of the combined total property. After speaking with Glenn Hofstadter from the Buildings Department, my neighbor and I were told that this was not a legal point of entry to the larger property for the purposes of development. After conveying this information to the current owner, I was told during our conversation that they believe their lawyers could change these local restrictions and the incorrect information still remains on the listing. I want to say I am not in any way against progress or development. I want to see the community of Hurley grow and thrive for my family and for yours, and it is because of this desire that I believe a short moratorium will allow the town of Hurley the time it needs to bring clarity to its zoning laws and to create a larger vision for the future that will serve the people living here for generations to come. I thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Next speaker, Brooke Pickering Cole.
Hi. Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Brooke Pickering Cole. I'm the director of the Hudson Valley Farm Hub. As many of you know, we are a nonprofit farm based in the Hurley Flats on what was formerly the Gill Farm. We're entering our 10th growing season, doing organic production and programming here in Hurley, and we love it, and we thank you very much for everything you're doing here in town. We have learned a lot over these years. In particular, we've learned how incredibly important on-farm infrastructure. Sorry, I'm chewing a Tic Tac. I can't swallow it. I'll probably start choking. One of the things we've really absorbed from hundreds and hundreds of conversations with farmers over the years is how important buildings are on farms. Crops don't grow themselves, right? Like they need people and tractors and machinery and tools and irrigation equipment and all kinds of things that involve structures, and animals need barns, and we wash vegetables inside. We do a lot of things indoors on farms. The shop is there to repair tractors, and we store grains in bins, and all of these things are really critical to a farm operation. So our one concern about the moratorium is just that it doesn't include any kind of special acknowledgement or consideration for agricultural projects. We have, as you know, in New York State, right to farm laws that are, really designed to acknowledge the special place that farms are, the special role that farms play in our lives and in our communities, and farmers as growers and stewards of land and producers of food and guardians of our food supply. And so in that spirit, we ask you to possibly revisit the language in the moratorium to include an exemption for agricultural projects. We don't want to see an unintended consequence, whether it's our farm or other farms in Hurley. We want to underscore for you how difficult it could be for a farm to have to hold or pause on an important improvement to their farm. It could be difficult for local contractors who work for those farms during a 9-month period, or possibly more if the moratorium were to be extended. So we're just asking for an addition in the moratorium language to exempt agricultural projects from the moratorium. And we are not lawyers at the farm. We're just nonprofit people and farmers, and so we asked our attorney to take a look at the draft, which we did, and I think you guys got some email comments from him, but I have them in hard copy for you. So thank you, just want to make that point.
Written remarks can be left with the town board.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next speaker is Mr. Green.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Raleigh Green. I live on Mountain View Avenue. I've been a resident of Hurley for 8 years, and I'm speaking this evening as a local resident. This moratorium seems to short-circuit the entire comprehensive plan process. The town board designated itself as the lead committee for the comprehensive plan after it basically dissolved the standing comprehensive planning committee early last year. I have several questions to this board. Is it a standard practice to put into place a town-wide moratorium or a spot zone moratorium such as the one proposed? If the moratorium is a standard practice, as was suggested by the supervisor in prior conversations and meetings, was the public told of this at the beginning of the process? I don't recall that. Given that the comprehensive planning process, including planning and zoning board reviews and public comment periods, could be much longer than 9 months, can this town board assure the public that no further moratoriums will be proposed as part of this process? I'd also like to state a concern about ethics and conflicts of interest. There appears to be a conflict of interest that should be addressed by the board. Frankly, I find it after I discovered this, I found it very disturbing that the chairman of the Hurley Democratic Committee, a George Rodenhausen, who's a legal specialist in land use and environmental law, is also a partner of Andrew Lessig and Victoria Polidoro, the attorneys selected by this board to provide legal services on the Hurley Comprehensive Plan, as well as other sensitive concerns. The Hurley Democratic Committee has already come out with its formal candidate endorsements, which include some of the members of this current board. It is also noteworthy that according to Supervisor McKnight at the last board meeting 2 weeks ago, that the attorneys are being paid on an hourly basis rather than a typical retainer. Such an arrangement can be very costly for the town. This appears on the surface very unethical, and I call on the board to end this relationship immediately to ensure there is no appearance of impropriety. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. As the town board knows, Mr. Rodenhausen retired years ago from that firm and is no longer affiliated. Next speaker is Cheyenne Marchetti. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
That's okay. It was close. It was good.
Okay.
My name's Cheyenne Marchetti. I live on Eagles Nest Road. I would be one of the neighbors of Matt, so I'm just here to kind of piggyback off of what he said. You know, there is that large parcel that is wanting to be developed, and I'm here to ask the board, going forward in their plan, to take into consideration the residents who live around there, their wells. I know that people on Dug Hill have already had problems with them just from other people moving in small lots. The amount of acreage that this parcel has the possibilities for tons and tons of houses with the way it's zoned, affecting many, many residents in all different aspects. So I'm just here to ask the board to take into consideration the people around these large parcels that are for sale, looking to be developed, and how it would affect us. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Albert.
No additional comments.
Okay. Thank you. Moving along. Mr.
Got
Whitted?
applause just for that.
Okay. Toby Carey.
Thank you to the board for holding this public hearing. I think it's important that people understand the comprehensive plan is the blueprint for the town going forward. The folks who are working on the comprehensive plan have held several public information sessions. I know they've reached out to the public. I don't know how many in this room have attended them or helped in the deliberations, but I urge you all to do so if you haven't. As has been stated, the comprehensive plan hasn't been changed in about 15 or more years. I think it's time that this is done, and the appropriate amount of time that might be needed to put in place a comprehensive zoning revision would require, in my mind, something like this moratorium. Now, whether the language is exactly what it should be, that's what this public hearing is about, to hear from people so that it can be revised to reflect the wishes of the community and the needs of those who are working on the comprehensive plan going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Former Supervisor Perry?
Hello, everyone, and Town Board. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Yes, former Supervisor Perry, but John Perry to everybody. As you know, I live at Sunset Terrace, Hurley, New York, and my reason for being here tonight is I believe that smart development is very important in our town. I do believe in land conservatory. I do believe in the things that potentially this moratorium is trying to do. However, it is not correctly doing it because a lot of the basis of what's in our zoning actually already does it. We have zoning board, we have planning boards. The 2.5 and 4 acre lots are smart development already. How they are developed is based on zoning and planning board. They can have impacts based on water, based on wells, septic, and things of that nature. These things are up to those boards, not necessarily this board. So moving forward, piggybacking off what Toby said, there were multiple surveys done for the public, for the comprehensive review. Unfortunately, this moratorium is based on that we have not seen. We have not seen any of those surveys. We haven't seen any of the information. There's no transparency. So based on what the people want, the people have not even had an opportunity to see what the people want. So this moratorium stating here is basically fraudulent as far as I'm concerned, the wording inside of it, because your voices have not been heard and or transparent enough to get back to you to hear what they are. There was weekends, there was email surveys, there was multiple things. They just have not been released to any of us yet to even go forward with this. Moving forward, the state and county have both acknowledged that there's a housing crisis. There's a tremendous housing crisis. The situation in Hurley is 80% of our tax revenues are residential. Less than actually 20% are commercial. So big business is not happening here. We base our taxes on you guys living in homes, and that's where we get our taxes from. So by minimizing that, you minimize the ability to keep our taxes down, period. Smart development, keeping taxes down, this moratorium does not allow that to happen. Specifically, our budget for 2023. The budget on 2023, there was a 0.1% increase in spending. Why? I mean, how is that going to be paid for? That's going to be paid for through revenues of mortgage and sales tax. You're now reducing the possibility for that to happen. What's going to happen at the end of the year? You're not going to have those revenues. That means your budget's going to be out of whack, and you're going to be paying for it over the next potential 5-10 years. These are things we have to start thinking about as a community. Smart development, not moratorium. Thank you.
David?
So first thing I want to do is speak to the folks on Bluestone Ridge. Raise your hand. Okay, I was part of that. I was a fire chief way back in the 80s and stuff when things were going through. The agreement then was that Bluestone Ridge would be used for nothing but emergency vehicles to get into the subdivision. There was never to be a road, there was never to be an access up and down Morgan Hill. It was supposed to come in from the Hurley side. So if you guys, someone wants to look that up, that's what you want to do with that. The lady from the farm, people got to get their facts, okay? If you have farm, agricultural, or an ag permit, nothing this board can do can supersede your permit or tell you what you can and can't do on that. If you have farm and you have ag, and you need to, whether it's burn brush, divert water, anything like that, if the EPA and those entities tell you this is what you can do, that's what you can do. This moratorium is not going to affect you. Why I came is because I was told certain people were being attacked, this and that. I don't get that here. What I see concern here is I see people like Ed Ports, who broke his ass, ran our highway department for 40-some years, and he bought a piece of land for retirement and his family. That should never be taken away, his right to divide that. Dean got in there and he got land so that he could retire as being self-employed. Get that. Now I'm going to talk to the town board. And thank you guys for what you do, because nobody appreciates a volunteer or anyone that gets elected until they're gone. Sometimes they don't appreciate you then, right, John? So, anyway, I think the town board has the right idea. I agree with what they want to do as a property owner. I'm a builder. Last year, we put up 69 houses between Sullivan and Ulster County and Dutchess County. Currently, right now, we're building 3 houses in the town of Hurley. 2 of them are on Morgan Hill. I don't like when the city folks come on up and they dump a bunch of money and they build houses. Example of what this town board wants to stop. Out in Olive, I just finished with the town of Olive. We're doing a subdivision out there by Teddy's. We're doing 18 houses. Every house is between $1.25 million and $2 million. That bothers me as someone that lived here and tried to get a house and get something for my kids. What I hear from the room is there's A and B, call it vinegar and oil, but there's people here that are highly, highly affected if this happens. There are people here that want to do the right thing and slow the growth down. My suggestion to everybody, and I would ask the town board, is now that you got people's attention and people are there, maybe have another workshop or 2. Listen to the people of the town, listen to your taxpayers, because without the taxpayers, there's no town board. Without the town board, there's no town. Put together maybe 2 more workshops, publicize them, let some more people talk to their neighbors. Let people tell you how they're affected, what their plans are for their property. Consider holding off and then put it back out there. Yes, I agree with open space. I agree with slowing stuff down, especially when you start looking at no one in Hurley can afford these houses we're putting up in Olive. It's just not for the locals. What's in this room right now is the locals. You need to take care of the people that have spent their living paying taxes in Hurley and giving Hurley their life. So consider 1 more workshop, 2 more, before you vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, there are no more speakers signed up. Is there anyone in the room who didn't sign up who wishes to speak and has something that we haven't heard? Please step to the microphone. Please give us your name and your address for the record.
My name is Bill Mahon. I'm a resident of West Hurley. I've been a resident of the area my entire life.
What's your street address, sir?
500 Stone Road.
Thank you.
As a member of the area, I own a large parcel of land myself. I bought it because I didn't want sprawling development. I don't want people around me. I like to be left alone. So as that, I appreciate people who have large parcels of land around themselves, and they do want it. But it's a double-edged sword where people don't realize that if it is your land and you do choose to develop it, do it tactfully, don't piss your neighbors off. But if it's not yours, where is it that people are not able to do what they want with their own land? There is a housing crisis, but the housing crisis can be simply solved in this area and most areas by eliminating second-family houses. The only reason there's a housing crisis is because more people own multiple houses than ever. That is really where we're getting this housing crisis from. As Dave spoke about $1.2 million houses, nobody that I graduated with high school from can afford these houses. Nobody's coming back to this area. We have 20% of our business comes from commercial. We might need to up that. We might need 30%. Maybe the Dunkin' Donuts isn't a terrible idea. Maybe we do something along the lines of that. We need to adjust how we do this, and we can't everybody scream at each other and try to just combat each other. It's about tactfully doing things. It's about tactfully getting along, workshops, and really getting together with people and trying to figure out how to do this in a manner that is beneficial to everybody. Thank you.
Step to the microphone, state your name, your affiliation, and your address if you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to address the town and the town board. My name is Umar Sheikh. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Offit Kerman, and I represent what the town knows as the Twin Lakes development. Do you need the address for the firm? No? That's okay. Okay, appreciate that. So we got a draft of this proposed moratorium, and first off, I wanted to say I echo all the comments made by my colleague from Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah. I believe that the moratorium is ill-conceived, it's poorly drafted, and it raises a ton of questions. But I'll speak specifically with respect to the Twin Lakes development. So Twin Lakes is in an A2.5 zone, and we've been in one form of litigation or another with the town for about 3.5 years. Recently, the Zoning Board of Appeals upheld our ability to move forward with the project, and we got a building permit. Now with this proposed moratorium, we don't know where we stand, right? But we are on the verge of pouring a lot of money into not only the development, but also the town. Tax revenues, jobs, and a lot of infrastructure development on our property. Private wastewater treatment plant, private wells, all to enhance the community. And with this moratorium, we do not know where we stand. But just like my colleague said with respect to the client that he represents, right? Our concern is that if this moratorium passes, there will be either unintended consequences or more litigation that's going to cost this town more money. And so I would say that the town board should go back, rethink what it's doing, and try to make this moratorium, if it's a good idea for the town and the town people, to make it very clear as to what the basis is and what problem is they're trying to solve. Because it doesn't do that right now. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Jordan Bem, I represent Arizona Hudson Valley, which is the Twin Lakes property. Matter of fact, may I ask a question? So, all I want to know is this is really ill-conceived and, very, very, very poorly written. We just want to understand, what does this have to do with our project that sits on the A2.5 district? Does this affect the current permits that we have? Does this affect the conditional approval? Does this affect, for example, a building permit that we haven't put in, which is part of the larger project? All these things are not written in this specific proposal that you guys are putting forward. So, as my colleague Mr. Sheikh said, there's only two options here. Is either we clarify this, or this is going to end in some awful litigation that nor I nor anyone basically wants to continue, because litigation will just end up causing issues for the whole town as a whole and everyone that's taxpayer here. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Please step to the microphone and state your name and address, please, for the record.
Bob Longendijk, 481 Mountain View Avenue in Hurley. Now, this zoning moratorium applies to A4 and A2.5. I live in R2. We went through a big problem just before the recession hit in '08 with Lennar wanting to develop property owned by John Gill, which part of their plan was to use my narrow street as an egress and ingress from this large development. Now, this moratorium will, if it only applies to 2.5 and 4, what about people who are border this property that's owned by Gill, 400 acres? Where are we in this moratorium? Do we get the same coverage or prevention of large development like Lennar wanted to do, which was only stopped by the recession, from occurring? What are our options? And is the town aware of any project? Now, the town supervisor was quoted in the Freeman as saying that there, to her knowledge, there are no large projects. Does that statement cover just A, 4 and 2.5, or does that cover the entire town? Because we had a large issue with Lennar, and they were basically just trying to steamroll the residents into getting their development, which would have increased, if my memory is correct, the town population by 25% and put it all on that 300 acres, because they said 100 acres wasn't developable. So I'd just like to know where people who are living outside of A and 4 and 2.5, where are we covered in this whole process? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Motion to adjourn the public hearing. Is there a second? Motion to adjourn the public hearing, reschedule May 16th, 7:15 p.m. here.
I second.
Okay? Any discussion?
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that May 16th?
May 16th.
7:15.
Yeah. So I need a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. I'd like a motion for the board to adjourn to go into attorney-client for a few minutes.
I made that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. We'll be right back.
This whole thing.
I used to be for like 26 years, but the whole thing back then was that Morgan Hill and 28A and the whole West Hurley rescue system.
Evening's entertainment. Yeah, I mean, last month there was this, but it was, nothing like this.
Yeah. I saw you come in.
How are you?
Yeah, for the last 3 years. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
Yeah, let's do
Really?
Quite reasonable.
Because of what you put yourself into when you come here.
Yes. I mean, I knew that they were going to have it in the paper. They had it in the paper, I think, on the At least there were no fist fights. Close. And I love it.
You go like, why all the formalities? You know, because there's a contentious issue. It doesn't go in the room. So they're doing all the formalities.
But I mean, there was, you know, powder keg, outside of the law of the state.
Hurley Mountain Road's a county road. County roads are made to take so many thousands of cars a day. A town road is meant to accept about 500 cars. So that's your, you know, that was your reasoning back then why, no, they couldn't come up and do more than they were. But if it helps you, use it.
All over the screen. I feel like
Nope, I'm doing two right now on Stone Road. I think I said more than but Stone Road. Yeah. And again, what I don't like about them is I'm not against weekend people and that, but the one house that we just built on Stone Road, not far from Billy Mayhem's, that is the third house for those people. You know, they got a place in Nantucket, a place out on Long Island, and a place up in West Hurley. So, you know, I see all sides of it. But I also employ 64 people that make a living out of construction. So yeah, it's everyone just needs to work together on it. There's always a solution if people work together. You know, to me, the worst thing I heard here tonight in these lawyers threatening to sue. What is that? If you're a landowner, put on your big boy pants, come and sit here with the town board, figure it out.
All I really want to know
Don't say
is what did her email mean and when are we seeing the templates?
Helps nobody. You're suing yourself. I mean, the big project that the Hakeens are running over there, they're suing themselves. They're one of the largest taxpayers in the town of Hurley.
I almost feel like you should be able to get somebody to the side and just ask the question, you know what I mean?
And over at their own resort.
Well, that's not
Why would you want to sue the town?
Right.
You know, they probably pay $300,000 in taxes now. That's got to be absorbed.
I don't think we know.
So everyone just needs to use common sense, love thy neighbor, and work together. Come to a solution. So, and I think the town board heard everybody. I'm 100% sure they're going to table it. They should do 2 workshops and get a little more opinion. And they need to pound it out, iron it out. Now, if you said to me, I want to put a moratorium on somebody coming in, buying 30 acres, subdividing it, and throwing up stuff for profit, I'm okay to slow that down. But when you talk about the guy that bought 40 acres years ago, and him and his wife live there, and his daughter and son-in-law live here, and he wants to build a house for his granddaughter back here, I don't think that should be stopped. You know, there's people that want to live their life and enjoy, and there's people that build for profit. If you want to slow slow down people that build for houses. I'm happy to work for the people that want to put a house up for their granddaughter, rather than the people that want to do, a $2 million house with a pool and crazy landscape. And the other thing, I didn't want to talk too long. None of these weekend people
I think you said it said you can't prepare it.
they don't volunteer for your zoning. They don't volunteer for your
Can I
planning.
clear my land?
So
Can I clear the land?
I'm for slowing that down because that's what's taxing on.
What are you clearing your land for?
What's not taxing on our town
You can still
is like
subdivide.
the guy over there that's walking out, 14. He works for a highway.
I'm just saying it would bother me.
42 years.
It's my property, I bought it, I paid the mortgage on it all that years, and now I want to let my daughter and my son build on it. You're going to tell me
He
no?
shouldn't be stopped from letting his granddaughter be his neighbor. I wouldn't want to be in their seat.
And I'm sorry, but I don't know that it's wrong to have $18 million homes going up in Olive Ridge.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you and your friends can't afford them. Maybe you should have worked harder. I don't know what the answer is to that. But just because people are moving here from the city, I'm very hugely sensitive to that because I'm a transplant. Hugely sensitive to that because I'm a transplant.
Coming here, I was very
And how dare my father come here and buy out Freddie Mac's, take
I
over
was
Macy's.
told that it was a Democrat, Republican thing, picking on the good old boys in town. I was lying. That's
you
not
gotta
what this
fucking be kidding me.
This is a group of people trying to do the right thing. And
I don't know.
this is no bit different than parenting. Nobody gives you a book and says this is how to run the town. No one gives you a book and says this is how to be a father.
I know, it just threw me off that all of a sudden tonight we're doing it. I've been here for a year now, and I've never seen any of this.
Everyone works.
A lot of double spacing, huh? Not tonight.
And if they table it, everyone should stand up and clap and applaud them so they feel like they did the right thing. That's. I like you more every day.
Order in the place that is also the court.
No decisions were made in the attorney-client meeting. We just simply asked some questions of counsel. I would like a motion to open the public hearing on the solar array law.
Motion to open the public hearing on the solar array law.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on the solar law?
I do.
Mitchell.
Mitchell?
Sorry, I can't read it. So I introduced myself before, and I'll introduce myself again. Mitchell Cohen, I live 28A in West Hurley.
We want to hear you, Mick.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. There you go.
Is it Verizon or AT&T?
Verizon, I think.
So, Mitchell Cohen, live on 28A in West Hurley. So I happen to be on the county planning board, and I'm just providing some feedback as a citizen, right, of Hurley, based on what I've seen at the county planning board. And it's just that there really shouldn't be a limit as to 12 kilowatt or 15 kilowatt, because it's not going to be to all solar is eventually going to go back into the grid, okay? Unless you have a $40,000 Tesla battery at your house. So it's just, there really shouldn't be a limit based on that. However, there should be recommended that there shouldn't be a limit, but it should be not commercial. It should be residential. These, and also, just a point made by the gentleman earlier, agricultural areas, there's state law protecting agricultural areas for what they really want and what they need. So, got to take a look at, when things are put in writing, maybe a little bit what the planners up at the county board are providing as far as input. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the solar law?
There you go.
Please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Dave Gutierrez, 103 Basin Road, West Hurley. So this is what's really important about solar to me. I was a fireman for years. When you start talking about how much solar to put out there, right now solar's the #3 killer of firemen, electrocution. Tesla's starting to beat them. It's responding to calls, driving, it's heart attacks, it's electrocution. So what I would ask the town to do is to get with your 2 town fire chiefs from Hurley and West Hurley and come up with something, and everybody that uses solar in the town of Hurley should have to notify the fire department. The fire department should get a chance to visit the spot, take a look at it, so they're familiar and know to shut off. You can go and cut Central Hudson, but if I got solar panels on my roof and Billy Mayhem goes in and cuts the wall, Billy's getting lit up. Solar never gets turned off. Your first responders are getting hurt from solar. So I just ask the board to think about that as you do that. Get your fire chiefs up here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the solar law?
I'm Rob Kunstad from Ryan Drive, West Hurley. So it was suggested that there should be no limit on solar size, but I think is a misunderstanding because the code now says there's industrial solar, which is large size, and then there's small scale solar, which is under 12 kilowatts. So the only change which is being proposed here is to clarify a typo in the regulation. It's not really changing anything because if you think about it, nobody wants industrial solar in the R1 district with a 1 acre lot. It doesn't make any sense. It would be like putting 10 boxcars on the 1 acre lot. So this is just a technical clarification. It really shouldn't cause any controversy at all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing none, motion to close the public hearing on the ground mount solar. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. There's a public comment policy printed on the back of the agenda for those of you who have one. And the deputy clerk will read the policy.
Neither the New York State Open Meetings Law nor any other statute mandates the members of the public be allowed to speak during town government meetings. But because the Hurley Town Board encourages participation by residents, rules and procedures that are reasonable and treat members of the public equally must be followed. Public comments will be heard at the start of each town government meeting, preceded by a verbal reminder by the chair about the comment policy. The policy also will be posted on the town website, and written copies will be available on request. Each individual wishing to make a public comment shall have a maximum of 2 minutes to do so. If more time is needed, written comments may be submitted to the clerk, and they will be entered into the public record. Individuals may speak extemporaneously or read prepared comments, though individuals reading comments on behalf of others will still be limited to 1 2-minute comment. Comments must be made in a respectful manner and without obscenities, insults, or threats. Anyone not adhering to this policy will be asked to leave the meeting. Public comment is an opportunity for the town to hear public opinion. The speaker will not attempt to engage the board in a discussion or dialogue, and the speaker should not ask specific questions with the expectation of an immediate answer. Where was I? The expectation that an immediate answer will be provided, as this is not the intent of the public comment period. Board members will acknowledge the comments but not engage in direct dialogue. Board members may, at their discretion, choose to have a conversation among themselves regarding issues raised during the comment period. The comment period is not the appropriate forum for open-ended conversations, debates, or arguments between the public and board members or the members of the public with one another. Comments may be submitted in writing prior to the meeting by any member of the public who is unable to attend in person, and the comments will be entered into the public record. If there are no further comments, the board may end the comment period earlier than the allotted 15 minutes. The public will be made aware of other ways to convey concerns, such as contacting the appropriate town department heads or employees during the regular business hours.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment about issues unrelated to the public hearings? Please stand, state your name.
Shut off the mic, please.
Sure.
Toby Carey, I live at 25 Lenox Avenue in Glenford. And there's an implication by some of the speakers concerning their inability to get records from the town when they have foiled a request. The implication is that it has something to do with the town board. The town board has nothing to do with answering FOIL requests. The records officer is the town clerk. By state law, every town clerk is the records officer. So when you ask for a FOIL response, the town clerk is obligated to do that. Now, if you are unhappy with the response, you may ask the town supervisor to intervene and to rule on the problem that you have. But the town clerk is the records officer. That's who is responsible for answering your requests. I've had the same problem, and I tell you right now, it's the town clerk's responsibility. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment?
Jill Albert, 39 Brittany Drive, as I feel like we all know. So, on behalf of the 39 Brittany, or the Brittany Drive contingent, at the February meeting, we got to a letter would be drafted. So we're just wondering about the status of the letter and the plan for distribution.
Thank you.
Peter McKnight, 91 Pleasant Ridge Drive in Hurley. At the last town board meeting, I really felt for those who have waited years for resolution to their road and drainage problems. And I'm sorry that their wrath was pointed at you, since you had no way of knowing about this problem. But I'm glad you are now aware, because I know that under this administration, follow-up will occur. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is David Whittick, reside at 11 Kemble Terrace, Hurley. It's in regard to the ongoing drainage issue that is going on out there. Last meeting, it was discussed, and I was told that there would be follow-up in a couple weeks. Just want to go out and state that I have not heard from the supervisor's office nor the highway superintendent's office in regard to it. Any and all update, even if there is none, it would be nice to know. So that way I can be assured that the project is not forgotten. It seems as though every spring, when the work should be getting underway, is when we seem to bring this issue up again and start at the paperwork stage, which is, I believe, part of the problem and why it's being dragged out. So I just ask again if that could be looked at and if it could be communicated to the residents that have drainage issues, that it is not forgotten and something is being done. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing none, is there a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close the public comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Okay. First item on the agenda is to, resolution to adopt the policy on public comment at Town of Hurley meetings that the deputy clerk just read into the record. Would a member of the town board be so?
Make a motion.
Would a member of the town board read the resolution,
No.
please?
Spoke too soon. Zan.
I'll read it.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
I don't know what's going on. Resolution to adopt the policy on public comment at Town of Hurley meetings. Whereas neither the New York State Open Meetings Law nor any other statute mandates that members of the public be allowed to speak during the town government meetings, and whereas the Town of Hurley encourages participation by residents, and whereas rules and procedures that are reasonable and treat members of the public equally must be followed. Now therefore, the town board hereby resolves that the Town of Hurley will adopt the following policy for public comment period at town government meetings. Public comments will be heard at the start of each town government meeting, preceded by verbal reminder by the chair about the comment policy. The policy will also be posted on the town website, and written copies will be available on request. Each individual wishing to make a public comment shall have a maximum of 2 minutes to do so. If more time is needed, written comments may be submitted to the clerk, and they will be entered into the public record. Individuals may speak extemporaneously or read prepared statements through individuals reading comments on behalf of others. Will still be limited to 1 2-minute comment period. Comments must be made in a respectful manner and without obscenities, insults, or threats. Anyone not adhering to this policy shall be asked to leave the meeting. Public comment is an opportunity for the town to hear public opinion. The speaker will not attempt to engage the board in discussion, dialogue, and the speaker should not ask specific questions with the expectation that an immediate response will be provided, as this is not the intent of the public comment period. Board members will acknowledge the comments but not engage in direct dialogue. Board members may, as their discretion, choose to have a conversation among themselves regarding issues raised during the comment period. The comment period is not the appropriate forum for an open-ended conversations, debates, or arguments between the public and board members or members of the public with one another. Comments may be submitted in writing prior to the meeting by the member of the public who is unable to attend in person, and the comments shall be entered into the public record. If there are no further comments, the board may end the comment period earlier than the allotted 15 minutes. The public will be made aware of other ways to convey concerns, such as contacting the appropriate town department head or heads, employees during regular business hours. Motion by?
Councilmember Simpson made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was very gracious of you, thank you.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, didn't we have, we had a resolution back in 2018 on public comment. Is this in place of that resolution, or is this in addition?
That simply established public comment. I don't believe that it gave any kind of parameters about it.
I think it did. I think it did give some parameters.
Okay, well,
basically.
this is
in
addition to.
Okay, all right.
Any further discussion?
Do you want to make a comment about this?
No. I'll submit it right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Town Board will note that this is something that we do every quarter. It's the Justice Court audit. Whereas the Town of Hurley Justice Court has submitted its audit and control records to the Office of the State Comptroller and has certified those records to the Town Supervisor for the past 3 months for the year 2023 through March 2023. The Hurley Justice has submitted its closed case log for audit to the Hurley Town Board on April 18, 2023. All records are available on scheduled court hours on 24-hour notice to the court for any Town of Hurley board member to review. Therefore, let it be resolved to accept the records as presented. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Next resolution comes to us from the Rail Trail Committee. They're requesting RFP be issued for seal coating. Resolution to issue RFP for rail trail seal coating, whereas the Town of Hurley leases the 2.2 mile paved section of the O&W Rail Trail, which is a 2.2 mile section that runs in a north-south direction beside State Route 209 from New York State Department of Transportation, parentheses, use and occupancy permit 82031, and parentheses, and whereas the town is responsible for maintaining the entire length of this paved segment, and whereas the trail has not been resealed in 5 years and is in dire need of sealing to maintain the trail and provide the necessary upkeep. Now therefore, the town board hereby resolves that the town board approve the draft request for proposals and directs the town clerk to publish and distribute the RFP by April 24th, 2023, which will be due for submission to the supervisor at 2 p.m. on May 12th, 2023, and to report back to the town board on the response to the RFP on May 16th, 2023. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Okay. Next item, town board will remember that we tabled this at the last meeting because we didn't have enough notice to really look at it and have a discussion. So this is, board members are in receipt of the 284 agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the 284 agreement?
I make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion, but we need to move further.
Discussion is next.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'd like clarification on item A1. I think we still need some clarification. I brought that up in the last meeting. And if you could possibly help either you or Superintendent Schultes, if you could help us understand this.
I did a little research. I did some outreach to the Ulster County Association of Supervisors and Mayors, and I'm in receipt of other 284 agreements just for the sake of comparison. What I noticed, and I'm happy to share copies with the board, is that under general repairs, for the amount of road that we have, the sum requested is approximately $200,000 over what other towns in Ulster County that are of similar size and have more town road to maintain. So I can't speak to the reason for that, but for instance, I know that the town of Ulster has 70 miles of road and their general repairs is listed at $180,000, if my recollection is proper.
I'm trying to do some quick math here. What's the total length of road that's being
So the town of Hurley is, currently receives CHIPS money for 52.16 miles of road.
Right, but these items, A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Mhm.
looks like a few miles.
Right, so that's under the permanent improvements.
Okay.
So the other thing that I noticed is that under 1B, item A, Ridge Road, that item was actually included on the 284 agreement that we passed in 2022. I'm not clear. The distance, the miles didn't change. It was 0.19 on the 2022 agreement, and the amount of blacktop was less. So, in fact, I can tell you how much less if you give me a second here. I'm not seeing it, there's an extra page that I don't seem to have got separated. I believe it was 375 tons or something, this is 450. I'm just wondering, maybe there was an error in calculation or something from last year to this year.
It's 420.
For this year, it's 420, but for the 2022 agreement, it was the same amount of road, but it was in the 300s. I'm having a hard time laying my hands on that piece of paper right now.
I know, I find that one. There was more than just that one.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there was maybe
I think we need to
just an error in calculating that.
Do you want to make a motion to that? Yeah. I want to make a motion to table this. Wait, hold on.
Hang on, there's already a motion in, so there's a motion and a second, we're in discussion. Okay, so, sorry, I can't juggle technology and everything too. And also, other 284 agreements, the permanent improvements are typically, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the other one was 325 tons in 22.
That's almost 100 less tons.
Yeah, so 2022 it's 325 tons, and 2023 it's 450 tons.
The road got bigger.
Right. So the other thing is, as I started to say, is there's no permanent improvements in terms of, capital improvements.
Yeah.
That other 284 agreements list capital improvements, purchases of equipment and things. So I'm going to assume that since there's no equipment listed for purchase, that there won't be any purchases. I guess that's the only thing I can infer.
Do they ever list out like the specific culverts and bridges that are being?
Typically not.
So it's just whenever.
On Ridge, I would hope that there would be some additional.
This is my concern with the people sitting in the front row here that have had drainage issues for years and years. They're really not giving an answer on 1A to promise into that. And for another thing, roads will deteriorate due to poor drainage. It's like putting a Band-Aid on. You could do some of these, but some of this damage is caused by poor ditches, poor drain. I would really like to see. I'd like us to take a roll down those roads, take a look at them, maybe have the highway superintendent with us, and show it all to us. My concern right now is the drainage there, the drainage on Ohio Mountain, and a lot of other people that come in here. One, which would literally cried to us about this. I agree some roads might need to be patched and maybe some need to be done, but I'm not sure all of this money needs to be done. And like Melinda said, I've run through there is more than one of these that have been duplicate charged for the last one. Now, does that mean it's a sealer level that they're putting over the top of that 1.9, a different thing that has to be added? I'm not sure, but once again, we don't have anybody here to answer those questions for us.
So it's typical in 284 agreements to not list the general repairs, but it is not typical to have this amount of money in the general repairs line for that amount of road. We are atypical in that regard.
What was it last year, to 1A?
1A was 371. It was $10,000 less.
Now, out of the 371, how much was actually spent? Because I believe the one, Ridge Road might have been a road that wasn't repaired last year.
It wasn't repaired. I'm just questioning the calculation of the amount of blacktop going from 325.
There is no seal coating on that, that's just,
No, I understand, but they're both type 6 blacktop. Last year's was 325 tons, this year's is 450 tons. The section of road is still 0.19, so maybe there was a calculation error. But I think we need some clarification about that.
well, we have to do something also with this agreement. We have to, if you don't pass it today, then it's gonna be held up till next month. Meanwhile, the work is not gonna get done. Meanwhile, the highway department is not doing anything then.
Well,
Want us just blanketly
so-
say okay?
No, but we've done this before in the past, so.
Well,
And the thing is, this is just basically the max amount that's gonna cost. It doesn't mean it's gonna be spent this way. Just like last year on Ridge Road, the money that was allocated for that wasn't utilized for that.
it should be noted that we didn't receive the 284 agreement last year until May. Also, 284 agreements typically are provided to the town board at the beginning of the year, and then they are adjusted as needed during the year, much like we do a budget line adjustment resolution to cover, move things around. So that's proper procedure.
It also gives us the winter before spring hits when this stuff should be happening. But instead, we get this when spring
So
starts.
we have a motion and a
Well,
second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we move forward with this, with the amendments, and 1BA?
What amendment?
In other words, could we remove 1BA
So
from this?
remove Ridge Road from it?
284.
Until we get a better explanation.
Yeah, well, we need clarification on that. I mean, that's a huge jump in terms of blacktop. So maybe if we can approve this under the circumstances, taking out 1BA, can we do that, Andrew?
I mean,
No, there's more.
You can make a motion to approve this conditionally
yeah.
on this stuff being removed. Remember, this is a contract
I understand.
that's being
Right,
proposed
if
to the
if
town
we
board.
pass this, it means we sign it.
Well, what I'm saying, contingent on the clarification on 1BA.
Well,
There's other ones too.
Well, let's talk about the other ones as well.
Melinda was trying to
Well,
find it
I was
just now.
just saying that there's no capital improvements. There are no purchases listed on this. That is typical, that purchases would be on this. So I guess I would assume that there would be no purchases.
I mean, I'll say 284, section 284 of the highway law is allowing town boards to give additional money to the town highway supervisor and the town highway department, in addition to what the town highway supervisor is going to be getting every year anyway from the state. This number here, 52.16 miles of town road, that's a number set by the state. That's not, this is for everybody here too. So it's not actually the number of, road miles necessarily that the state has. It's the number of road miles that the town, that the controller up in Albany has said that the town has. There's some weird rules to this. If your road is less than 16 feet wide, even if it's two ways, they count it as a one way, so you don't get as much for the same amount of distance as if it were a two-way road and stuff. So it's not exactly a number here, but this is how they come up with the funds that the highway department gets. The 284 agreement is supposed to be, we the town board are going to give additional money for additional set projects X, Y, and Z that we agree with the town highway supervisor needs to be done, in addition to just normal sort of maintenance that the highway department needs to be doing anyway with the funds they'd be getting from the state on just an annual, regular basis, period. So there would still be some funds coming in to answer your question from before, Member Baum. And really, at the end of the day, just to answer your question to Mr. Simpson and to let everybody know, you know, this is a give and a take. This is what are we asking the highway department necessarily to do above and beyond just basic maintenance on the roads that are the town highway department's responsibility to begin with, and you know, how much do we want to award, how much do we want to expect for X, Y, and Z project. For example, you know, some of the drainage issues that have been brought up tonight, of course, the town board is trying to address already out of general funds. There's other drainage issues as well that we've been discussing to be addressed. Is that something we want to ask the highway department to do and give them a certain set pot of funds to do it out of, or do we want to continue to do some of the work that we're asking the town engineer to do out of general funds and do it without the highway department getting involved? This is all, everything here is up for agreement. You don't have to do a 284 agreement, period, and anything that's in the 284 agreement, it's got to be a deal that's agreed to by both sides here, the highway department and the town board.
So in essence, we cannot, if we are in disagreement with any aspect of this agreement, we can't pass it. That's what you're saying.
Not necessarily. I mean, at the end of the day, no two people agree about everything.
Absolutely.
All the time,
So
ever.
that's right.
So,
What could be done is we could ask for an accounting on 1B, 1BA, on why there's a discrepancy from last year, this year, and that kind of thing.
So,
I wish I had the paperwork. This is more than one, there's like 3 of them, at least.
There are 3 different instances where the
Where things are
tonnage is
From last year
different
to
on the
this year?
blacktop.
From last year to this
So
year.
what are
Do you
those
think
3
that's
things?
possibly why this is
What
so
are
much higher than
If I need pieces of paper and I don't have them, and she can't find, she doesn't have them with her.
she?
Melinda, sorry.
You have a 284 from last year, Melinda, with you?
I believe that I do.
Oh, cool.
Are there any repeats? When you looked it up, like, last year's 284 and this one.
I did.
Are there any repeats?
So last year, there were only 4 items.
Right.
What were the other ones?
It was Dug Hill Road, Bessel Road, Evergreen Lane, and Ridge Road. And this year it's Ridge Road, Park Lane, Stone Road, Reichel Road, Rosa Lane, Roberts Court, Circle Drive, Settlers Court, High Rocks Road, Cedar Street, Eagles Nest Road.
So basically, only the Ridge Road is a repeat from last year.
Ridge Road is the only repeat from last year to this year.
Was I looking at another year?
Yeah, I think so.
I have another question then. Those comparable, like the town of Ulster, was that from like pre-pandemic when things were a lot cheaper, or that's from now?
That's current.
So the unit cost in the town of Ulster is way, way lower than the unit cost in the town of Hurley?
So
or why?
they assign $180,000 for basic work and general maintenance and repairs
Uh-huh.
on 70 miles of road. And the highway super is asking for $381,200 for basic work and general maintenance and repairs on 52.16 miles of road.
Is it possible, I mean, that there's a lot more drainage, ditches, culverts, and bridges that would somehow be
I can't
amounting?
speak to the difference in,
Can we find
you
this
know.
out?
I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I don't. So if the superintendent has put forward some number, right?
Yes.
Right. And we can't easily compare across towns because the roads have got to be different.
How different? We don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how badly some other people's roads are compared to our roads. So my point is this. I have a problem with Ridge Road because, as you point out, there's this discrepancy. I would suggest that if we can, that we look at this and the other things that you want to talk about, if we can talk about those things, get those things out of this agreement so that if there's a possibility that we are not holding up other people, the employees up at the highway, their work, if we are not doing that, we don't want to do that.
So the lack of a 284 agreement does not prohibit work, it prohibits paving.
Yeah, they're actually
Right,
there.
so this is specific. This is a specific. So I'm not arguing for or against, what I'm saying is that, is there a way to get them to do whatever they need to do at this juncture? If the answer to that is no, then we'll defer this to next month.
So the motion was to adopt the 284 as it stands. There's a motion and a second. Do you wish to amend the motion?
Yes, I'd like to amend that motion.
Okay, would you state how you wish to amend the
I'd
motion?
like to amend the motion.
Hang on.
He didn't make the motion.
No.
Member Bonds.
Right, Mr. Bonds made the motion. Mr. Bonds, do you wish to amend the motion?
I defer to Greg, what he wants to say.
But you already made a motion, so you have to
Well,
say,
all
like,
right.
I rescind the motion.
I don't know, I don't rescind the motion, but would I like to maybe add on to it to get a better clarification?
Hold on, let's just vote on the motion that's on the table now, and then you can make another motion.
Okay, yeah, well.
Okay, so the motion is to adopt it as is. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
I oppose the motion.
I don't have a
Considering
motion.
that we're,
So are you abstaining?
Abstaining.
yeah, so now, can you make another motion? Sorry,
Yeah.
Super.
So the motion is down then?
Yes.
Okay, so another motion is to accept this, amending 1B, Part A. Get it?
What's the amendment?
Amending to make sure that this is not a typo, a clerical error, or why is it difference
So
from last year?
you're gonna have to be clear about what you want
I would like,
specifically.
my motion is basically to accept the 284, except for the 1BA, until we get better clarification on that part. Now, can we actually stop one part of this thing?
You could conditionally approve this, but for
On the
1BA,
condition that 1BA is satisfied.
if it's struck and agreed to also by the highway department, as is minus 1BA.
So you wanna strike that provision?
I want to strike that provision now, yes, and come back to it later if need be.
So we're gonna ask the superintendent to make an amendment to this at a
Yes.
future date.
Well, essentially, the motion, if I'm hearing this correctly, is to agree to it as is minus 1BA on the condition that the highway department supervisor also agrees to this as written minus 1BA.
Okay, but can we do something also, can we revisit this thing also, if we get a clarification? Maybe like Linda was correct, maybe this is a typo in a sense, perhaps.
What about all the drainage stuff?
There's other one,
Where
yeah.
did that go?
He can do an amendment if he wishes to clean that up at a separate time.
So much easier if he was here.
All right, I would go for that then, I would.
So you don't care about the drainage stuff being in here, like?
No, not at all.
Well,
Not at all.
based
We've
on
had
what-
this, we've had this all the time. We've had it last year. Last year was 370,000.
No, but you wanna make sure that, like,
No, no, no.
within this 284 for this year, is some kind of language addressing the drainage issues on the
Look,
roads
it might be-
we know
Yeah, but
about?
hold on.
No, I'm
All right, let me
asking,
clarify that. There is a capital 14H fund that has $900,000 in it that specifically is for drainage issues. All right, it's already been budgeted. In fact, it's been sitting in that account since 2011. All right, so the money is there already for the drainage that's supposedly going on here. It just needs to be handled.
That's not part of this agreement,
Oh,
it's
I know that,
284
but, well,
agreement.
we just talked about the drainage issue and pointed to these people here.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just, it's a separate thing
Okay.
from this agreement,
All
yeah.
right, but that's, okay, I'll bring that up also
you.
afterwards.
So
You're making the motion.
My motion is to eliminate 1BA.
Minus 1BA, but is there a second for that from any board
Yeah, is there a
member?
second?
yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Any discussion?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, it's.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to let people know that there is, I've looked at documents, I have them home, that there are doubles, maybe not from this year.
There's some overlap from
There's
previous
definitely overlaps and
years.
other ones with other discrepancies, which I know, Greg, you're asking for them right now. I don't have them, but I do have them. And I also, I'm also very concerned about 1A for the people that come every month with these drainage issues.
It's a,
So-
yeah, it's a separate thing. So
Yeah,
there's a
that's-
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, hold on, Andrew was gonna say something.
No.
Oh.
I was gonna ask her to call the question.
Oh,
She just
okay,
did,
okay,
so.
okay, okay, okay.
I'm psychic, I guess.
Psychic.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
I abstain.
I abstain.
I abstain.
So motion carries.
No.
Can we now address?
Motion does not count.
It has to be
It failed.
an overall majority of the board, period, so.
Okay.
Good try, though. The motion carries at the end. To see if-
Okay, so we'll communicate, the changes that the board is requesting, and I encourage the town board to communicate with the highway superintendent, questions.
Ha,
I request
So-
to table this for now.
You move to table?
we moved to table?
No.
You move to table
Move
Yes,
to table
move to
it
table it.
to a specific
You
future
want it?
meeting?
to May
I
16th.
think another month, why don't we just put it on the same date as everything else?
So there's just been a motion to table this. Is there a second?
Table this to the 16th.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So carried.
We really need more communication with Mr. Schultes on this,
As we've
It's
been
like-
requesting.
fumbling around in the dark to figure this out.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we now, can I now address the issue? Since now this is done?
What
Can I
issue?
address the issue with drainage, with the people?
We're in the middle of a meeting, so this is not the time to, we'll be happy to talk with you after the, okay. Please stay, I do have some things to.
Sure, we'll stay. We're good. Bye.
Get used to it now.
Okay. Where are we?
Are we doing appointments now? What are we on?
Yeah, we're on appointments if I
We are
can.
appointment of Deborah Kozar.
Okay.
Whereas the town is in receipt of a letter of interest and resume from Deborah Kosar, and whereas Georgianne Chapin, whose term goes through 2028, has stepped down from the planning board, and whereas the planning board chair and board agree that Deborah Kosar would be an ideal fit as a board member, therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley to appoint Deborah Sue Kosar to the planning board, term ending on December 31st, 2028. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Motion to appoint Griffith Lewa to the planning board. Whereas the town is in receipt of a letter of interest and resume from Griffith Lewa, and whereas Annie Reed, whose term goes through 2025, has stepped down from the planning board, and whereas the planning board chair and board agree that Griff Lewa would be an ideal fit as a board member, now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley to appoint Griffith Lewa to the planning board term ending on December 31st, 2025. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Griff.
Is there any discussion?
It says whereas Griff, and it says the first is Griffith and the second is Griff. Does it matter?
I think he prefers to be called Griff, but his official name is Griffith. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Okay. Motion to table the appointment of Mitchell Cohen as an alternate to the planning board, pending some revisions to the law that needs to be enacted before we can make that appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay, so we had a little, this afternoon there was a flurry of activity.
Yeehaw.
And so under new business, the town board will recall that on a number of occasions we've discussed embarking on a zero waste proposal. At the last workshop meeting, we decided to move forward with issuing an RFP So I have the resolution. If you all are interested in entertaining that as new business.
Is the RFP over, the time that it was posted?
I mean.
We didn't
posted
post it, no,
hasn't.
it hasn't been posted.
So this resolution tonight that was tabled to tonight from the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, whenever it was at this point. This, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of it, it directs that the town clerk publish the notice of this, so that's what
Right.
this is doing.
Yep.
This is to put this out and to get the ball rolling and to get it published out there in the public, but no, it hasn't been, it has not been published yet, pursuant to the law.
Okay, so is the town board interested in moving forward with this, or do you want to table it till the next meeting?
No, I'd like us to move forward with this.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Resolution to direct publication of the notice of intent to issue a request for proposals pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 120-W. Whereas on November 19th, 2019, Ulster County adopted resolution number 451, establishing a policy that Ulster County shall be a zero-waste community with almost unanimous support. And whereas New York State has amended the environmental conservation law to include Title 22, food donation and food scraps recycling, Title 27, plastic bag reduction, reuse and recycling, and Title 28, bag waste reduction laws as a means to modify consumer habits and post-consumer disposal methods. And whereas landfilling waste poses a real and increasing threat to our environment and economy, costing the people of Ulster County $16 million in 2022. And whereas residents and businesses in the town of Hurley desire to be in full compliance with Ulster County Resolution 451, and the town has established itself as an environmental leader through the adoption of the Climate Smart Pledge. And whereas the town of Hurley can lead by making a commitment to zero waste, which will contribute substantially to other community objectives and competitively position the town for funding through New York State Department of Environmental Consolidation funding applications and other applicable future federal grant opportunities such as Environmental Protection Agency waste reduction and pollution prevention, which will reduce waste disposal costs while improving operational efficiency of an aging infrastructure and reduce the need for local landfill space. And whereas in the town of Saugerties, the Kiwanis Club demonstrated that by partnering with a zero waste company, the Garlic Festival, with attendance of approximately 40,000 people and hundreds of food vendors, crafts, and farmers, could recover 89% of waste in compliance with Ulster County Resolution 451. And whereas pursuant to Section 120 of the General Municipal Law, the town of Hurley desires to issue a request for proposals, RFP, for a company or collaboration of companies for a public-private partnership to plan, provide technical assistance for grant applications, and administer the town's goal of recovering 90% of the town's waste. And whereas a draft RFP following the alternate procurement procedure set forth in Section 120W of the General Municipal Law has been prepared and is on file with the town clerk and available for public review. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Hurley hereby authorizes and directs the town clerk to publish notice of its intent to issue the RFP in the town's official newspaper and in the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Environmental Notice Bulletin in the form provided by the attorney to the town, and provide for at least 60 days of public comment on the draft RFQ. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have one question. So there are two things on this, the RFQ and RFP. Could you just give me some clarification on the latter?
I'm going to refer to council.
Thank you.
What are you looking at?
The last
Right.
It
paragraph.
says issue the RFP and then on the draft RFQ.
It's yeah, obviously the difference is the letter, you're right.
Mind your P's and
But-
Q's in the front too.
It should be an RFQ, where it's an RFP,
The RFP is the next step, right? Am I right in that?
Yeah, I mean, right now what we're putting out is the RFQ, because that's what the law calls for, so.
RFQ first, then
So,
RFP?
Yes.
Okay, so
All right, so we have to change that.
Request for proposal versus request for quote.
Do we have to change it?
Andrew,
So yes, I mean, I would, like it if a board member could make a motion to change the P to a Q and have that's whereas.
Okay.
PC word, the PC.
I make a motion to change
I'm amending the motion to
To
be
make a
RFQ
P
instead
to
of
a Q.
RFP.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just for clarification. How do I put this? We received documentation which spoke to issues of RFPs only
You received
from the law firm, from your law firm.
Right.
And I'm trying to understand the relationship of that document with this resolution, where there's a request for an RFQ, where in that that other document, there was only a request for RFPs.
So,
Maybe I misunderstood what we
listen,
were.
This can all be a little confusing even for me. So there were two ways we could have done this, as I think you all
We discussed.
at the workshop meeting and the last meeting, the May meeting here last month. There was just proceeding under the normal procurement law that the town has, but then there's also this special law, 120-BW of the general municipal law. The state really is encouraging people, municipalities specifically, I should say, to adopt these policies. Apparently food waste being organic and water heavy, it's very valuable. It's also very expensive to dispose of as compared to paper or something lighter. I believe we had given the board a memo on the two ways to do this going forward. Going under the one would have required an RFP, the other would have required an RFQ. In normal parlance, and even my work day to day, sometimes I use them interchangeably just because they're tough to get straight, they're similar. But what we've prepared here, since the board elected, I guess, at the workshop meeting a couple of weeks ago to go under the special general municipal law, is an RFQ.
Okay, all right.
What we're asking for is firms, or what you all would be asking for if you adopt this, I should say, I'm not part of the board, I'm just here to help, is a request for qualifications for a firm or a business that is qualified to come forward and show us why you're qualified, where have you done this before, what are you qualified, so that the board can evaluate it. You'll remember the special thing under going under this versus just going under the general procurement law that the town would otherwise go under, is that you can evaluate people who respond based on their qualifications and not just necessarily based on the lowest cost. You know, if one is going to cost more, but they're going to do a much better job of getting the waste recycled into nice fertilizer for the park or something, and that, in the board's opinion, is worth the additional cost, that's something that the board can consider in a much broader fashion than under normal procurement, where you don't have to go with the lowest bidder, but you better have a really darn good reason why you don't. So.
There was something about it, but we may not have all touched on it, because I think in the workshop meeting we got there and then we were, but I think there was something about it.
We went, like Gregory, you went there.
Yes.
And were very, very impressed, correct?
Yes.
Being a chemist and being basically kind of in your wheelhouse of seeing how this operation worked, I would like to see the operation get in as soon as possible.
That's not the query that I raised was procedural.
Yeah, it's procedural.
And I wasn't understanding. So if what our attorney is saying is that we need to make the adjustment on this resolution.
Yes.
To speak to RFQs, then that's.
Drafted as an RFQ.
So I just amended the resolution.
You did?
Yes.
I can't see that.
She already did.
Well, I can't do it up there, but
What's up there is a PDF.
Right, so
It's not that hard, you have bars through it.
if only I had a magic wand.
Should be any more transparent.
No transparency here, right? Okay, so I amended the resolution, right, to in that last paragraph, it says RFP first and RFQ second. I'd like to change the RFP to RFQ. There's a motion and a second.
Motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Thank you very much. There's another item of new business, the town did, yeah. There was some discussion that Ulster County was issuing grant applications for ARPA funds to be used on parks. And the town did go ahead and submit a grant application for additional upgrades at the town park. It's a good thing considering we can use as a match the other grant monies that we received, so this is kind of more bang for our buck. I did not receive the resolution in time, so I was advised that I've received now the EAF for because we have to do seeker on the grant application. So I'd like make a motion to make a negative declaration on the seeker, negative declaration for seeker, and permission from the board for me to review and sign the EAF. I don't have it here. I mean, it's in my file somewhere, but I ran out of time. So essentially, the grant application is for some more kitchen cabinets in the kitchen at the pavilion.
Like $20,000.
Yes, please. I'm sorry. I can't. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. So our planner, or the town's planner, sent this over today. The description in part one there, which is just the fact-based part of what the town board is being asked to do, is the town board is proposing numerous improvements to the West Hurley Park to increase inclusiveness and engagement with the community. These improvements include the installation of accessible picnic benches, construction of an accessible loop trail, kitchen improvements, removal and demolition of older equipment, leveling of the parking lot, creation of a lawn/community garden area in proximity to the basketball courts, resurfacing of the basketball court, installation of new signage and doggy pots, I'm not entirely certain what that means, and other accessible safety and recreation improvements. Right now, what's been drafted by the town planner states that the site is 53 acres. However, the area of the site to be physically disturbed is less than 1/4 of an acre, actually is 1/4 of an acre. That's one strike in favor of it being seeker type 2. It is less than 10 acres, what is being proposed here. Obviously, Bonnie has prepared this because Bonnie, on behalf of the board, is putting together the grant application. Again, for question number 1 here, does it require any legislation? It does not. For question number 2 here, does it require the approval of any other government agency? Yes. Ulster County Parks and Recreation is who we're making the grant application to, so of course it requires their hopeful approval. The only further note here is that any building construction will meet the energy code requirements, and the building code requirements is applicable. It has to anyways. What's more important here, what we're asking, or what the town board needs to wait tonight, is the ability of the town supervisor to sign part 2, part 3 here. Essentially, yeah, to declare it a type 2, but along with being a type 2, we also have to render this short EAF form. Essentially, question number 1 is, will the proposed action create, that I've just read the description up to you, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? How does the board feel about that? Okay, it is already a park after all. We're just trying to make some improvements to it. Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in use or intensity of use of land?
Nope.
Anybody feel that it will? Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Anybody feel that it will?
No.
Impair?
impair in any ways. Again, I mean, this is all for grants to improve a park that's already a park there, but just to fix some things and add picnic benches. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics of a critical environmental area? It will not. We've run the automatic EAF mapper on this already. Again, it's an area that's already been disturbed. 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? I mean, the possible answers here are no or small impact or moderate to large impact, so.
Not an impact in a negative way.
Well,
More useful.
any impact, frankly, but again, it's a small,
It's gonna be an impact.
it could be a small impact since you're going to be re-leveling some of the surfaces and just fixing what's already there, but does the board feel that it's a no to small or a moderate to large? No to small, okay. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy, and does it fail to incorporate reasonably, this is a weirdly, it's a little funkily asked here, but will it fail to incorporate reasonable energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? So does the board feel that improving what's already there is going to massively increase the electric bill or the oil and gas bill? Okay. Will the proposed action impact existing water supplies or wastewater treatment utility facilities? Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Okay. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora and fauna being the examples given? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No to small or moderate to large? No. Okay. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No to small, moderate to large? Okay.
It's so nice to see these questions.
Yes, well,
With something that's innocuous, rather than.
to apply for this grant, which I understand is quite timely, which is why we were asked to forward it tonight so that the town planner can get on with the application after tonight. Requires this, even though typically you wouldn't always necessarily have to fill this out. Typically, this is for like a listed action that might be less than a type 1, something huge, but more than a type 2, something small. And then for the short environmental assessment form part 3, what the town planner has put together is in response to the question, is anything moderate to large? Please explain further. Essentially, she wrote, not applicable. So since you all have agreed already for part 2 that everything is no to small, of course this is not applicable. So seeing that the board is all in agreement here that this is a type 2 action, do you want to again entertain the motion to adopt a negative declaration and to give the town supervisor the authority to execute the short EAF here that's been prepared by the town planner?
It's a motion.
It's a motion.
Yes, Rob.
Yeah.
Do you want a second? I will second that motion.
Well, I can't make the motion. Hold on.
Yeah,
Someone needs
It's
to make
my
the
motion.
Okay.
Thank you for helping
Okay.
me through that. Appreciate it. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Thank you, Andrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. There's a.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good job.
My pleasure.
Wonder why we have to.
Okay, so there's a few items under old business. Board is in receipt of the minutes
Yeah.
from the last few meetings. Motion to accept the minutes received. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So carried. Town clerk's report.
I'm guessing I just.
Yes.
Okay. The count is $263,818.63.
Motion to accept the clerk's report.
Yes.
Is there a, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Make her read the whole thing.
So carried. Okay, town board should have in front of you, the supervisor's report. Is there a motion to accept the supervisor's report?
Motion to accept the supervisor's report.
Ice.
Should be noted that the total fund balance of, capital funds and everything is $9,476,832.05. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? I do wish to make a comment about some claims that were made by the former supervisor about deficits and things. It's just not true. Taxes went down last year. They're, just because another supervisor's approach is different doesn't mean that it's going to put anyone at risk. So, I've run organizations for a long time and managed large budgets, which I think perhaps the former supervisor doesn't have quite the level of experience that I have of 25 years. So I'll leave that there. The other thing that I want to mention is that I don't know if the town board has noticed, but actually let me back up.
Okay.
I want to say something about the comp plan.
Okay.
So you will recall that we dissolved the comp plan committee about a year ago.
Yes.
And the reasons for that were laid out very clearly in a resolution. At the time that that committee was dissolved, there was no chair. And no one was willing to step up to be chair. And so what happened was the committee was kind of running in neutral. And there were some expenses that were increasing, and there just wasn't enough traction, and it was no fault of any of the volunteers. I believe that it was just a function of just people's lives and not having the ability to step up and chair that committee. So comp plans under New York state law are a project of the town board. The town board can shift its responsibility over to a committee, but it's still the responsibility of a town board. The town has only been in receipt of a draft comp plan since last night at probably about 6 p.m. That draft was emailed to the town board for review, and it will be released to the public tomorrow, first thing, along with all of the supporting documents. Issuing a draft is really the start of a comprehensive planning process. That is when the public has an opportunity to review and weigh in and make changes. It's very hard to get robust public input when there is nothing for them to look at. So the plan will ultimately get shaped by further comment and additional workshops. So no one was trying to hide anything. The process took a long time. People are volunteers and are doing the best that they can. No one is trying to hide anything, and so there you have it. The next thing I want to say is there have been some claims on social media and in print that are related to the town of Hurley Highway garage. The highway superintendent has issued statements, numerous statements over a variety of media sources, that the garage site was all picked out, that there were engineers under contract. The town did sign a contract with the engineering firm at the end of 2021, December 28th, 2021.
and it was for $250,000, and it was to basically design and build the garage in a location determined by the superintendent and others. It has come to light that there are some issues with that location. Just to back up a little bit for the sake of clarification, the town of Hurley owns 3 contiguous parcels on Dug Hill Road, totaling 99.1 acres of land. The highway garage, the closed landfill, and the transfer station and recycling center occupy the same parcel of 10.8 acres. The town park is officially designated recreation and is located southwest of and adjacent to the highway garage parcel. The park is 53.3 acres. The proposal to build a new garage behind the wood chip pile, which straddles, in the highway superintendent's words, straddles the line between the recreation land and the vacant parcel, which is another 35 acres, is problematic because a significant portion of that site is on town-owned land designated as recreation. In New York State, use of designated parkland for any other purpose is considered alienation. According to the Handbook on the Alienation and Conversion of Municipal Parkland, published by the New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Office in 2017, and I quote, "Parkland alienation occurs when a municipality wishes to convey, sell, or lease municipal parkland or discontinue its use as a park. Parkland alienation applies to every municipal park in the state, whether owned by a city, county, town, or village. In order to convey parkland away or to use parkland for another purpose, a municipality must receive prior authorization from the state in the form of legislation enacted by the New York State Legislature and approved by the governor. The bill by which the legislature grants its authorization is commonly referred to as a parkland alienation bill." End quote. Prior to the construction of a new highway garage in the location proposed by the superintendent, the town of Hurley would need to receive prior authorization from New York State to change the use of the parcel. It is the intention of the town board, per our prior conversations, to engage the town planner in May of 2023 to conduct a comprehensive feasibility study of all town-owned property located on Dug Hill Road. The purpose of the feasibility study is to determine the most suitable location for the construction of a new highway garage. So when it's reported that there is no plan, that's not true. This new awareness of parkland alienation is a wrinkle, and it's something that we have to deal with, and I think the planner is the right route to go in. I want to mention one more thing regarding comments that we received last week. It was brought up that the town board was not practicing its due diligence in drainage on Wildwood in West Hurley. I sent an email to the town engineer directly following our board meeting, and I was informed, I have the email to prove this, that all of the work done, the map, the easements, were drawn up in November of 2020 by the town engineer, Grenier and Larios. Dennis Larios confirmed this. And he said that those documents were provided to the attorney at the time that they were prepared in 2020. So this was just brought to my attention. It's not this board's fault, in essence, that this didn't move. I wasn't aware that the easements were drawn up and never filed. So just letting the board know that, and I believe that at this point, the highway superintendent has contacted town attorney to assist with the proceeding, with filing the easements.
The easements were never filed?
The easements were never filed.
Easements were never filed?
Yeah, I confirmed that with the Office of Real Property this past week. So, just to let the board know.
Okay.
Okay, so that's,
So basically, we're on the road now to,
apparently so, yes.
Petition.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, great.
Just wanted to let you know that I wasn't sleeping on it.
All right, yeah, but also the property on, Pleasant, what do you live on? With Dave Whitaker.
Wayside.
No, where Dave Whittick lives?
Wayside.
Wayside?
Oh, yeah.
Kimball Terrace.
Yeah.
That one required a permit from the DEC? Have we got that?
The paperwork was filed with DEC, so,
Was the payment made on it?
of course.
Okay, so
Months ago.
okay, so we have the receipt then, basically.
I can't speak, I haven't seen the document from DEC,
Yeah, 'cause we
but
need-
everything was sent in.
Okay, I'm just saying we need the receipt in order to get work started on that property.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, everything went in.
Okay.
That's all I have. Anything else by the town
Yeah,
board?
can I just clarify again, I guess you mentioned something last week that there's a grant for $900,000. That's capital budget, that's
There's
capital
money in the
14H.
reserve fund.
Right, that's capital 14H. That was put there in 2011 by, I think Gary Bellows put that in there, and it sat there always. But that's what it's used for drainages. In this area, your area, and also the area back on Wildwood, as well as Pleasant Ridge. Pleasant, that was cool.
Yeah, because those problems have been around for that long, so we put the money in.
It was put aside by, again, in 2011, $900,000, it just sat there, has never been used.
So, I want to let the town board know that part of the resolution of all this stuff, I think, has to do with the amount of time that I'm spending here. I'm here 35 hours a week. You know, I know anecdotally, I've been told by staff members in the town hall that Supervisor Bellows was here maybe a half an hour a day, most of the time.
He had a lot of other stuff to do.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I do my best to be responsive and resolve things to the best of my ability. I will say that the letters are ready, and I'll be contacting you in the next day or so.
Terrific, thank
Okay?
you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
We find you
God bless you
responsive.
back there.
I do my best.
That's yours.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. With all of that, anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You guys have a great break.
The town planner
turn the mic
wrote
on.
this grant.
Here's what I did, when I was chief